Mel Gibson has been caught out during another rage-filled rant, firing obscenities at a screenwriter in front of his teenage son.
A big Hollywood star is saying it's time to forgive Mel Gibson. 15 months after we first heard Gibson on tape.
Gibson is here. He has made 33 films, becoming one of the most successful actors in the history of film. He was born in Peekskill, New York.
To Mel Gibson, Hollywood's obsession with woke culture is leading it down a dark, self-destructive path. He's called it out as a place where real voices are silenced and creative freedom is at risk. Bold claims from a star who's experienced both the highs and harsh lows of the industry. From his explosive statements to his personal battles with Hollywood's double standards, Gibson's story is a wild ride through fame, rebellion, and truth-telling. Brace yourself because you're about to see Hollywood through a lens it would rather keep hidden. Act 1. A Hollywood icon with a dark lens. Let's rewind to the late 90s, a time when Mel Gibson was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, enjoying blockbuster success and critical acclaim. But even at the height of his career, Gibson wasn't entirely comfortable with the industry. Beneath the bright lights and red carpets, he sensed a darker side to Hollywood, something few people dared to talk about. In a rare 1998 interview, Gibson hinted at what he called the worst nightmares lurking within the industry. His words were carefully chosen, yet unmistakably pointed. A bold statement from someone on the inside, suggesting that Hollywood was far from the perfect picture it tried to paint. Gibson wasn't just talking about personal struggles or vague challenges. He was offering a glimpse into what he believed were deeper systemic issues, hinting at manipulation, excess, and ethical compromises within the heart of Tinseltown.
That some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think...
At the time, Gibson's comments shocked many. Here was an actor-director at the peak of his power, someone who had everything to lose, daring to question the very industry that had given him his fame. Hollywood doesn't take kindly to criticism from within. Stars typically keep any concerns behind closed doors. Yet Gibson, an industry heavyweight, was willing to speak up, challenging an industry he believed had a sinister side that most people didn't see. This moment was more than just a glimpse into Gibson's beliefs. It was a preview of the path he would take in the years that followed. By pulling back the curtain, he foreshadowed the controversial figure he would become, one who would stand apart from Hollywood, often at odds with the industry's changing culture. For Gibson, this wasn't just about a single interview or a passing remark. It was the beginning of a much larger journey where he would continue to call out Hollywood's flaws as he saw them, regardless of the consequences. Act 2. The Unfiltered Critic. By the early 2000s, Mel Gibson's critiques of Hollywood had become increasingly pointed and hard to ignore. His grievances weren't just personal, they were deeply reflective of the issues he saw entrenched in the industry. For Gibson, these critiques weren't fleeting frustrations. They were rooted in his growing disillusionment with the industry he'd been a part of for decades. He didn't just see Hollywood as flawed, he saw it as a system built on questionable morals and power dynamics, particularly when it came to how it treated women and minorities. In one of his more infamous comments, Gibson criticized Hollywood for how it portrayed women on screen, saying they were typically shown as either naked or dead. This blunt remark struck a nerve, confronting an industry that often evaded accountability on issues of representation and respect. For many, his words were a wake-up call, a scathing critique of how women were frequently objectified or reduced to tropes for the sake of entertainment. Gibson's words resonated at a time when Hollywood was still resistant to change, especially around portrayals of gender and power.
Women are notoriously bad joke tellers, most of them. Some of them are good. Some of them have a capacity for it.
Unlike others who quietly accepted the status quo, Gibson's outspoken nature forced the industry to confront some uncomfortable truths. These weren't just casual comments, they were fierce indictments that pointed directly to Hollywood's systematic objectification and disregard for meaningful female roles. For a star as big as Gibson to call out Hollywood's treatment of women so directly was, in itself, a powerful act of defiance. While Hollywood often prides itself on pushing boundaries, it's a place that can also cling to tradition, especially traditions that serve its power structures. The impact of Gibson's critique went beyond mere words. It set off a ripple effect. Critics, fans, and industry insiders couldn't help but take notice of the boldness of his stance. Though Gibson's words were divisive, they exposed the gap between Hollywood's glamorous image and its harsh realities. For a Hollywood powerhouse to openly denounce the industry's faults highlighted just how deeply these issues ran. Gibson wasn't merely voicing frustrations, he was challenging a system that often resisted accountability, sparking a dialogue that would resurface time and again, especially as social awareness around representation grew. Yet, in speaking out, Gibson was also taking a major risk. Hollywood, as forgiving as it can be, often struggles to embrace voices that critique it from within. By voicing his criticism so openly, Gibson was walking a line that few actors would dare to cross. These comments made him a target, leading to backlash that would follow him for years to come. For Gibson, however, this wasn't about winning favor or protecting his status. It was a matter of principle, a way to expose what he felt was a festering issue within the industry. In his role as a Hollywood insider turned critic, Gibson wasn't just making waves, he was planting seeds of change, forcing the industry to reflect, however reluctantly, on its portrayal of women and its resistance to meaningful reform. His critiques would become part of a larger conversation, one that he helped to ignite by daring to speak the unfiltered truth, regardless of the personal cost. Act 3. The transformation of woke culture. As the years went on, Mel Gibson's critiques of Hollywood expanded beyond gender representation. He began to focus on a growing force within the industry that he believed was slowly suffocating creativity, what we now know as woke culture. While many social justice movements started with good intentions, Gibson saw a darker evolution taking place. He didn't view this as a fight for equality or fairness, but rather as an emerging force that was, in his view, becoming a creativity-crushing, silence-enforcing beast. Gibson's concerns were rooted in a broader shift he saw happening in Hollywood, a shift towards political correctness that, in his eyes, was stifling true artistic freedom. He warned that this new wave of activism, which initially sought to address inequalities and correct societal wrongs, had become a kind of censorship that left no room for nuance, free expression, or dissenting voices. In an industry known for pushing boundaries, Gibson found this trend alarming. At its core, Gibson believed that woke culture wasn't simply advocating for change, it was enforcing conformity. He argued that it imposed a rigid set of values that left little space for complexity or artistic exploration. In his view, the constant pressure to conform to a particular narrative, one that was shaped more by social media outrage than by thoughtful discussion, was driving Hollywood into a creative straitjacket. This wasn't just a matter of political correctness gone too far, it was a complete shift in how the industry viewed its role in society. Instead of promoting free thought, creativity, and artistic risk, Gibson saw Hollywood becoming a place where any deviation from the accepted narrative could result in public shaming, career destruction, and even blacklisting. The tension mounted as Gibson increasingly voiced these concerns. His critiques painted a picture of an industry caught between its artistic roots and the growing pressure to appease an increasingly vocal, often uncompromising activist culture. For Gibson, the threat wasn't just to individual careers, it was to the very heart of what made Hollywood great in the first place. Its ability to challenge norms, to ask hard questions, and to push the boundaries of art and culture. By labeling woke culture as a beast, Gibson was highlighting the way it had evolved from a movement for change into something that, in his eyes, had become an authoritarian force in itself. His concerns were not simply about the loss of creative freedom, but about a broader cultural shift that was leading to an environment where silence was enforced and controversy was vilified. In challenging this shift, Gibson wasn't just commenting on the changing landscape of Hollywood, he was sounding the alarm about the dangers of allowing any form of censorship, whether from the left or the right, to dominate the conversation. As the industry grappled with the rise of woke culture, Gibson stood firm in his belief that true artistic freedom was under threat. His stance, though polarizing, spoke to a larger, ongoing debate in Hollywood about the balance between social responsibility and creative expression. For Gibson, the question was simple: would Hollywood continue to value free expression, or would it fall under the control of a force that demanded conformity at all costs? Act 4. Championing sound of freedom and shifting focus. While Mel Gibson's critiques of Hollywood's flaws and his outspoken opposition to woke culture might have defined his relationship with the industry, his actions spoke just as loudly. Gibson didn't just voice his opinions, he actively sought out projects that challenged mainstream narratives and tackled real-world issues. One of the most significant examples of this came with his support for Sound of Freedom, a film that exposes the harrowing reality of child trafficking. This wasn't just another Hollywood blockbuster, it was a hard-hitting, often overlooked story that Gibson believed believed needed to be told. By publicly backing Sound of Freedom, Gibson stepped into the role of an advocate for uncomfortable truths, something that had become a hallmark of his career in recent years. The film, which follows the journey of a former government agent as he works to rescue children from human traffickers, was a sharp departure from the typical Hollywood fare. While many in the industry avoided such difficult topics, Gibson recognized the importance of shining a light on issues that, though disturbing, were crucial for society to confront. His involvement in the film was not just about supporting a project, it was a bold statement of values. At a time when Hollywood was often accused of prioritizing profit over substance, Gibson was putting his name behind a movie that tackled a deeply painful subject matter with the potential to spark real change. The film's message wasn't one that fit neatly into the conventional Hollywood narrative, yet Gibson was unafraid to champion it, understanding that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that challenge our comfort zones. Gibson's support for Sound of Freedom also put him back in the spotlight in a way that reignited his reputation as someone willing to stand for difficult causes. For years, his critics had painted him as a divisive figure, but by backing a film that dared to tackle such a controversial and emotional topic, Gibson reminded audiences that he was more than just an actor or director. He was a man who still cared deeply about the real-world issues that Hollywood often ignored. His unwavering commitment to supporting films with uncomfortable truths redefined his role in the industry, solidifying his place not only as an artist but as an advocate for change. Act 5. Hollywood's double standards. As Mel Gibson continued to speak his mind, he quickly became a lightning rod for controversy. His willingness to call out Hollywood's flaws and his outspoken views on everything from woke culture to social justice movements made him a target for criticism. Yet, as Gibson faced relentless scrutiny, it became increasingly clear that Hollywood's outrage wasn't always equally applied. While Gibson's every word seemed to be under a microscope, other celebrities appeared to skate by with far less backlash, even when embroiled in scandals of their own. One stark example of Hollywood's double standards can be seen when comparing Gibson's experience with that of stars like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Gibson's past controversies, including his 2006 arrest and infamous comments, led to years of being blacklisted and publicly condemned. Despite his efforts at redemption, the stain of his past lingered, and Hollywood seemed unwilling to forgive. For instance, in 2022, he was hit with a bizarre $3 billion lawsuit accusing him and over 1,200 others of kidnapping and stalking, yet the public in Hollywood seemed largely unfazed. Compare this with Gibson's blacklisting after his 2006 controversies, and it's clear Hollywood applies a different set of rules depending on the star's standing. Johnson has also voiced concerns about the dangers of cancel culture, expressing frustration with the way people in the entertainment industry are quick to judge and ostracize others without understanding the full context. This selective outrage contrasts sharply with Gibson's own experience. While Johnson's involvement in controversial legal issues or business practices has largely gone unpunished, Gibson's every move was heavily scrutinized.
In today's easy cancel culture world, and cancel culture, woke culture, this culture, that culture, division, etc., that really bugs me.
This hypocrisy further fueled Gibson's critique of Hollywood, reinforcing his belief that the industry's outrage was often more about political convenience than about any true moral compass. His frustration was not just about being singled out, but about the apparent willingness of Hollywood to forgive and forget for some, while others were left to face the consequences of their pasts indefinitely. As he continued to challenge the industry's treatment of outspoken critics, Gibson's experience underscored the deep-rooted double standards that continue to plague Hollywood. A system that, while quick to judge, is often slower to embrace accountability and forgiveness. Act 6. Personal downfall and resilience. Mel Gibson's career has been anything but smooth. While his rise to fame was meteoric, it was followed by a rapid and dramatic fall, sparked by a notorious 2006 incident that nearly ended his Hollywood career. Gibson's drunken rant, filled with anti-Semitic remarks, quickly became headline news, and the backlash was swift and unforgiving. In an industry where the spotlight can turn from adoration to vilification in an instant, Gibson became the perfect target for Hollywood's collective wrath. His reputation, once synonymous with success and brilliance, was now overshadowed by scandal, and it seemed like his career would be permanently derailed. For years, Gibson faced a relentless storm of criticism and professional isolation. He was blacklisted by the industry he had once dominated, finding it nearly impossible to get projects off the ground. Despite his undeniable talent as a director and actor, Hollywood's judgment was harsh, and many considered his career over. It was a harsh reminder of the unforgiving nature of cancel culture, a force that doesn't always allow for redemption or growth. However, amidst the chaos, Gibson found an unexpected ally in Robert Downey Jr., who himself had battled personal demons and a fall from grace. Downey, known for his own comeback story, highlighted in an award speech how we all deserve forgiveness, and so does Mel Gibson. His words became a lifeline for Gibson, offering hope at a time when the industry seemed unwilling to extend any grace. Downey's support wasn't just a personal act of kindness, it was a public endorsement of redemption, reflecting a larger conversation about the nature of cancel culture. Can someone truly redeem themselves, or are they forever defined by their worst moments?
Actually, I asked Mel to present this award to me for a reason, because when I couldn't get sober, he told me not to give up hope, and he urged me to find my faith.
For Gibson, this became the fight of his life. It wasn't just about salvaging his career, it was about proving that people can change, learn from their mistakes, and deserve a second chance. His resilience in the face of public scorn became a story not just of professional survival, but of personal growth. Gibson's fight for redemption resonated with many who felt the weight of cancel culture's unforgiving grip, and his return to Hollywood, though gradual and often met with resistance, was a testament to his enduring strength and determination. He had fallen hard, but he was willing to rise again, showing the world that resilience in the face of adversity is sometimes the most powerful comeback of all. Act 7, Gibson's prediction of Hollywood's decline. Decades after his 1998 warning, Mel Gibson's vision of Hollywood's future feels eerily relevant. In that interview, Gibson spoke candidly about the potential downfall of the entertainment industry, foreseeing a shift where image would take precedence over authenticity. His words seemed prophetic then, but as we witness the current state of Hollywood, his predictions are coming into sharper focus. In his 1998 interview, Gibson warned that Hollywood was on a dangerous path, one where the pursuit of image and political correctness could overshadow the authenticity that once defined great storytelling. He saw an industry shifting from its roots in bold, risk-taking cinema to one increasingly focused on appeasing the public, pandering to trends rather than staying true to artistic integrity. He believed that in chasing this ever-changing image, Hollywood risked losing the very essence of what made it great. Fast forward to today, and we can't help but see how Gibson's warning has become a reality. Hollywood is increasingly driven by social agendas, with studios and filmmakers often bending to the demands of politically correct narratives, sacrificing creativity and boldness for fear of offending the wrong group. In the age of woke culture, the pressure to conform is at an all-time high, and many fear that this might mark the decline of truly daring original filmmaking. Gibson's early critique now echoes like a warning from an insider, one who had seen the industry's darker side and understood how easily it could unravel. The industry's current reliance on franchise films, reboots, and risk-averse content speaks to his belief that Hollywood could, over time, fall victim to its own contradictions, prioritizing profit and image over authentic, meaningful storytelling. The question remains, can Hollywood change its course, or will it continue down this path of self-destruction, losing its identity and its ability to innovate in the process? Gibson's words are not just a critique, but a cautionary tale, one that could define the future of filmmaking if left unchecked. Act 8, a cultural disconnect. While Hollywood drifts further into the embrace of politically correct narratives and formulaic content, Mel Gibson has found a surprising and devoted following among viewers who feel increasingly disconnected from today's entertainment trends. For many, Gibson represents something rare in a Hollywood increasingly obsessed with image and mainstream sensibilities, a voice unafraid to challenge the status quo. His appeal lies in his unapologetic stance against the industry's growing conformity. While Hollywood prioritizes safe narratives that avoid controversy, Gibson's boldness resonates with audiences who feel that the heart of true cinema, raw, unapologetic, and fearless storytelling, is being lost. These viewers, often disillusioned with the predictable, sanitized fare dominating theaters and streaming platforms, look to Gibson as a maverick. To them, he's not just an actor or director, he's a symbol of rebellion against the mainstream, someone unafraid to speak uncomfortable truths. The cultural disconnect between Gibson and Hollywood is striking, as the industry embraces inclusivity in the form of checklists and brand-safe narratives, Gibson's unfiltered views make him a figure of admiration for those who long for something more substantial. They see him as a figure standing tall against the tides of cultural homogenization, someone who champions authenticity over social trends. This admiration is not about agreeing with everything he says, but about recognizing that Gibson speaks for a disillusioned audience, a group who feels that Hollywood's new direction doesn't reflect their values, beliefs, or tastes. For them, Gibson is a necessary counterpoint to an industry that's drifting away from the bold, boundary-pushing cinema that once defined it. Act 9: The Battle for Artistic Freedom. For Mel Gibson, his criticism of Hollywood goes beyond personal grievances. It's a stand for the survival of creative liberty itself. He sees today's entertainment industry as shackled by fear and political correctness, limiting the freedom of filmmakers to take risks, challenge norms, and tell bold, uncompromising stories. Gibson's battle is not just for his own artistic freedom, but for the broader integrity of filmmaking. He's fighting against an industry increasingly governed by fear of offending, fear of controversy, and fear of non-conformity. In Gibson's eyes, this stifles the very essence of what it means to be an artist. This ongoing battle is about preserving the space where filmmakers can speak truth to power, push boundaries, and explore unfiltered, uncomfortable topics. It's a struggle to keep Hollywood from becoming a sanitized echo chamber that favors comfort over challenge. Gibson stands at the forefront of this fight, not just defending his own place in the industry, but speaking for all those artists who feel stifled by the suffocating grip of fear-driven limitations. A polarizing legacy. Mel Gibson remains one of Hollywood's most polarizing figures, his career forcing us to confront tough questions about censorship, social responsibility, and the very essence of artistic freedom. His unfiltered critiques continue to spark debate. Are his words a much-needed critique of a changing industry, or simply a divisive stance? As Hollywood evolves, Gibson's legacy challenges us to consider where the line between art and activism truly lies. What do you think? Should we listen to his warnings, or has he gone too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.